that's what's precious, and that's what stays forever. So this book, for me, is probably the only book I can remember that made me cry. Throughout this book, he talks about examples from his experience as a counselor for 30 years, and how many, many couples came into him to talk with him, and he tells the stories of how they got stuck and they couldn't get over their problems as a couple. They couldn't, and they just didn't understand. And so, as a serious Christian, he prayed and prayed about how to help couples, all these couples, and then you know how God works. He takes you one step, and then eventually another little step, and then finally you have this amazing understanding. And I think because of True Parents and the incredible indemnity of True Parents and all of us, really, that this is a time in history where healing is one of God's main focuses. If you look at the world, there are, and I don't know if you do, you see this, but because it's kind of under the radar of the regular media, but there are all kinds of healing techniques that are coming forward now. Many people are getting inspirations and revelations. And for me, it was always like, I would look at all of history. Look at the Middle East. Look at all the violence that's been committed in this world. How are we ever going to heal? Just the people on the earth, but think about the people in the spirit world for thousands of years. How are we going to ever heal those people and make the kingdom of heaven? Well, God has the answer, and I think God is actually sending messages, not just to our church, but to the people who are really sincere, who really connect with God, and the people who really want to help. So I think God is working with anybody He possibly can. In fact, I once had an experience where I felt like this little tiny hole opened at the top of my head, and God went to try and put something more in there. So hopefully you'll have an experience like that someday. This is the book. I brought some extra copies if somebody wants to buy one after my talk. I'd be happy to sell it to you for $15. All of you probably got one of these as you came in. If not, they're available somewhere. On the inside is the 5 apology languages kind of explained, written out. So you don't have to take notes today. It's all right here for you. These little, I do one of these in Maryland every week on Sunday. So it has a marriage tip, a parenting tip, and a spiritual tip. I'm into tips because I think tomorrow most of the content of what I say today will be lost. So little tips, you know, here, a little there, you know, over a long period of time, you can grow, you can change. And another thing, just show and tell. I made some copies of the little quiz you can take to find out what your excuse me, your apology language is. I got some. I'm good. All right. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. It's so hard for me to say that, but I know I was wrong. Please, please forgive me. I need you to say you'll forgive me. Please forgive me. I'll try not to do it again. I really will make every effort. I won't do it again. I'll make a plan. Tell me what to do so I don't do it again. How can I make it up to you? What can I do? Tell me, what can I do to make it right, to repair the damage I did? How can I make it right with you? What do I have to do? Those are the 5 apology languages. Now, as I shared them, maybe you noticed that one of them seemed more sincere to you than the others. One of those, and typically this is what it means that everybody has one primary apology language. Like if your apology language is you want to hear the words, I was wrong. And I could do the other 4, but if I didn't say I was wrong, sorry, not good enough. You were insincere. So this is the trick, that you need to understand all 5, or you need to find out what your spouse's or your children's apology language is, and then just use that one. Because my wife is native Japanese, so she had to learn English. I didn't learn Japanese. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I was wrong. I won't do it again. Well, I will, actually. And I don't think I can make it right without learning Japanese. But you see the point. If each one of us, if we have an apology language, then we need to understand other people's as well, so that we get it. So, because the purpose of the apology is to rebuild the relationship, right? So here's the book, and it's subtitled "How to Experience Healing in All of Your Relationships." So if you have relationships that need some healing, this book can help. And here are the 2 authors, Dr. Gary Chapman. World famous. He is probably one of the best known marriage educators in the world. And he's an extremely humble man, very, very Christian, and very prayerful. His own testimony is that he got married, he was full of all the ideal, and everything's going to be perfect, and we're going to have the ideal marriage, and nothing will ever go wrong. And then everything went wrong. His marriage really, really hit the rocks for a long time. And he tried everything. And finally he was able to work, finally able to humble himself actually and work out of the pain and suffering. So he has a personal testimony which is very powerful, but that foundation of going to God really led him to save his own marriage and be able to help lots and lots of other marriages. He's most famous for the 5 love languages, and that's a fantastic book and information. I believe it's divinely inspired. That people have, just like they have apology language, they have a love language too. And I don't want to go into that, but Brian can tell you all about it. He has a PowerPoint and everything. And I encourage you, if we do the seminar again, please come to learn about how each person has a primary love language, and that's the way mine is physical touch. My wife can say all kinds of words, but a touch is more valuable. It's just I feel more love that way. So. And Dr. Jennifer Thomas, clinical psychologist, also author, they spent over 2 years researching and talking to thousands of people, asking them, when someone apologizes to you, what is it that you feel makes it sincere? How do you know that they're really apologizing? And so they got all the answers, and they figured it. They looked at them and they looked at them, and they tried to put them in categories. Lo and behold, they came up with 5. And it looks a little funny that they came up with 5 because there's 5 love languages and now there's 5 apology languages. But that's the way it came out. And he apologized. Sorry, that's the way it came out. Interesting. My wife tells me that this book is also available in Japanese, in case anybody would be interested in that, and see my wife. She could give you the website where you can buy that. So why apologize? How many people never made a mistake? Okay, I don't see anybody here who doesn't have to apologize. How about in the kingdom of heaven, will people still make mistakes?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Do you think God designed the world in the ideal that there would be no mistakes? Nobody would ever get hurt. Nobody would ever misunderstand each other. What do you think? No, I don't think so. Because learning to understand each other is what it's all about. That's how you create a relationship. That's what builds the deep, deep relationship over many, many years of living together, husband and wife, or parents and children. That's what makes love. That's what love's all about. So learning to apologize is a very, very important part of building a love relationship. And in Dr. Chapman's counseling, many times people would come in and the husband would say, I said I was sorry, I apologized. And the wife would say, no, you didn't. You never did such and such. You never said such and such. And there's, story after story after story about how they were stuck. I said I was sorry, and he did. He said, in his own mind, he apologized. But for her, that wasn't an apology. So so you're stuck. You could be stuck forever there, right? I said I was sorry. Don't you get it? I'm sorry. And you get angrier and angrier, and you get louder and louder, I'm sorry. And they don't get it. You see, you just miss each other. One person is trying to express sincerely that they're sorry, the other person's not getting it because they're not speaking the same language. Does that make sense? Can you think of an example in your life where that might have happened to you? Those of you who are married, that ever happened? A couple people, yeah. What's the point of apologizing? I mean, if you don't, you got to see the reason, because this is not easy, is it? Is it easy to apologize? It's not. Why do it? There's no forgiveness and reconciliation. You don't have a relationship anymore if it breaks. There's so much, there's no restoration, and we're all into restoration, right? Indemnity. Hello. Here's another, for me, this is probably the essence of indemnity, is learning to apologize and figuring out how to rebuild the relationship. Look at this world. There's an epidemic of broken relationships. Isn't that what divorce is? Isn't that what teenage delinquency is? Alienation, resentment, anger, frustration, hopelessness. Doesn't it seem to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger in the world? Number one reason to apologize, in my opinion. It helps you separate from Satan. And I think think it's explained well in the Bible, in the principle of true parents. Because if you, say you have conflict with your spouse, what does God want? God's looking down, what does He want? He doesn't want to see separation. He doesn't want to see conflict. He wants to see reconciliation. What do you want in your heart? You want reconciliation. What does Satan want? He wants separation. He wants you not talking to each other. He wants you angry and frustrated with each other. That's Satan. He wants to destroy your blessed couple. He wants to destroy your relationship with your children. Is Satan a nice guy? Look at this world. Look at the hearts of so many people who are separated. You know, they talk about, psychologists, how could a person commit mass murder? How could people be suicide bombers? They are totally disconnected from other people. They have no sense of that they might hurt somebody else. Everything is totally centered within themselves. They can't feel when other people are hurt. That's the problem. In the big scheme of things, this is not so important, but it's something I just wanted to share, which comes from the book that he explains very well. The difference between justice and restoration. You know, you hear a lot of people protesting, we want justice, we want justice. Is that what we really want? No, it's not. We want something better than that. We want restoration. Now, here's an example. An employee steals from a company. He gets caught. He gets tried in court, gets found guilty, gets fined and in prison. Justice has been served. Okay? That's the definition of justice. That's an example of justice. Is he going to get his job back? Is he going to have the relationship that he had before with his employer? No way. No way. Here's an example of restoration. If the employee steals but realizes his mistake before he gets caught, takes responsibility, reports it, apologizes, expresses regret, pays the full value, and pleads for mercy. Please forgive me. I made a mistake. And is that restoration? Not yet. Because the boss has got to accept his apology and forgive him and take him back. But that's possible if he did that. So this, I mean, we're talking heavy-duty stuff here. But that's just the world, justice. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. There's justice for you. But then that doesn't really get us to a loving relationship. Restoration is the true desire in all of our hearts and in the heart of God. How many have had a very deep experience with God's love? Good. Wonderful. What did you feel when you felt that? Did you feel like unbelievable love for everybody? For yourself? That's God's heart. So, that's where we're going, folks. That's the goal. Learning the skill to sincerely apologize is vital for the restoration of the world. I believe. You may. You're free. How things work. I'm an engineer by training, so I'm always thinking, how does it work? How do we do that? How do we do restoration? Now here's another one that he talks about in the book, which I want to just touch on briefly. A person hurts you, can you forgive them without their apologizing to you? And is that important? Because a lot of people say, forgive, forgive, forgive. Your job is forgive. Okay? Notice, though, that, and this he talks about, and he uses a lot of Bible verses, which I didn't really put up here, but God's forgiveness is always available, but it's conditional. This we have to realize sometimes. Sometimes we think unconditional love means always forgiving no matter what they do. Not true. Not true. For even in the Bible, you have to first confess your sins. You have to repent and believe. Then God forgives. Otherwise, we're separated from God always. It's very important to understand this concept of forgiveness without apology. In other words, forgiveness, you need to have the heart to be ready to forgive as soon as the conditions are there. Okay? On the cross, and this is interesting too, on the cross, what did Jesus say on the cross? I forgive them? No. He said, Father, forgive them. He stood in the place of those who had sinned and said, Father, please forgive them. Jesus did not say, I forgive them. Sometimes that's a confusion for people as well. And he talks about that in the book. It was very insightful for me. So, I mentioned this before. Each person has a primary apology language. And they have a little survey in the book. It's 20 questions. And, you read, at lunch, your server dropped food on you and ruined your shirt. What should they say? And then he gives 5 examples of what you would think is a sincere apology. And then you put down the one that, you would like to have as an apology. And then at the end, you add up all your A's and B's, and it tells you what your apology language is. But as I went through these, you might have even noticed already what your apology language is. And then also, you may have a secondary apology language. There's a primary one, but there's also a secondary one that's really important to you as well. So I want to talk a little more in depth about each one of these, and then I'll be done. Dr. Chapman, saying I'm sorry, they gave it a name they call it expressing regret. I regret what happened. I'm sorry. So expressing regret. If this is my apology language, that means I want to know that you understand your behavior hurt me. If you say I'm sorry for doing da-da-da-da-da, yeah, that's exactly what you did. And you're sorry for it? Okay. Finished. This is my apology language, by the way. And it's also my wife's. So that worked out really well. That was a fantastic match. We didn't know that until we took the quiz, but I can imagine that 30 years of living together, if we didn't have the same apology language, we would have miscommunicated so many times. What do you think? Wouldn't that happen? Wouldn't that happen? That's why I read this book, I just cried. Oh my God. We spent 5 years in the Blessed Family Department, and people would struggle in their relationships and struggle, and then they finally get to the point where, oh, we can't take it anymore. They come and see us. We go, oh my God, I have no idea what to do to help. So, we are tremendously fortunate that we have the same apology language. I am so grateful to God. Because I think that there's no telling what problems we might have run into if we didn't have the same apology language. So, and this is, for me, this is the easiest one to deal with, because if I'm sincerely sorry, I just say the words, I'm sorry, and it's over. We can start rebuilding our relationship. Some of the other ones are much more difficult. What do I have to do? And I'd say to you, well, tell me what I have to do. You're really, getting down on your knees and saying, okay, tell me what to do. And you don't know what they're going to tell you to do in order to get forgiveness. But this one I found, again, I'm grateful to God that this is my apology language. So if you hurt me and you need to say you're sorry and tell me what you did wrong, and I can say, yeah, that's what you did wrong. Okay, done. Let's get beyond this. Show remorse. And if a person says, I'm really sorry, after they get caught, doesn't count. I'm sorry I got caught. No. So, I was wrong. And they gave a name to this, accepting responsibility. I recognize I made a mistake. That was wrong. I should not have done that. It violated you. It violated my own principles, my own morality. I was wrong. And for some people, it's very hard to say this. I was wrong. So, if you did that, if this were my apology language, I would really want you to accept responsibility for what you did and said and acknowledge you made a mistake. You can't just say you're sorry, you got to say you are wrong. I want to hear that. Name your mistake and accept responsibility. You did it. Please forgive me. They call this one requesting forgiveness. It's pretty obvious. So those are the words I want to hear. Those are the magic words. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. You can say you're wrong, you can say you're sorry, but if you don't say, please forgive me, that's not enough. Okay? I see some heads shaking. Is this your, you think that's yours? All right. You want to hear those words? That's the way to touch my heart. When you say you're, please forgive me. Okay, you got it. No more. I'm ready to embrace you again. Those are the magic words. That's what feels sincere. But be patient, because sometimes it takes me a little while to open my heart again. This one they call genuinely repenting. So I'll try not to do it again. You know, the word repentance means actually to turn around 180 degrees, to, go the other way. So genuinely repenting. I'll try not to do it again. So if that were my apology language, I really want to hear your desire and even a plan to change your behavior. So you don't do that again. If you hurt someone in a certain way and then you apologize, but then you do exactly the same thing again, how do they feel? Right? You weren't sincere. If you didn't change. This is a case where, you talk indemnity and then there's lesser indemnity, equal indemnity, greater indemnity. Well, if you do something wrong and apologize and then you come back and do it again, you got to pay greater indemnity. You got to do more next time to show you're trustworthy again. Right? If this were my apology language, if you don't change, then that's not sincere apology. I mentioned that already. What can I do to make it right? This is a really hard one, actually, because you put yourself at the mercy of the other person. If somebody has this apology language, they're waiting for you to get down on your knees and have you tell them what to do. That may be a little harsh. It may not be that bad. It's not my apology language, but for me, that one sounds really difficult. But to make restitution, that's what they call it. And this comes from the sense of the person has really been hurt. Their desire is to know that you still love me. So you have to do something to make it right. I want to love you. I want to have our loving relationship again. And I want you to show that you really love me. So your behavior was so unloving, but now you have a debt to pay. And there's a whole chapter in the book on apologizing to yourself. Many of us do things that we wish we hadn't done. We do things that we know are wrong. We do things that hurt other people, we didn't want to do it. And then we get stuck in a situation where we can't even love ourselves anymore because we can't forgive ourselves. So just as you might get stuck in a relationship with another person and kind of separated from another person, you can also get separated inside yourself. You know, sometimes people, we call it do a double life. Kids will live one religious life at home, and when they go outside of the home, they do other things, and they come back and they look really nice. You probably all heard of that. So when you get those two things going, it's hard to know who you really are anymore. And so apologizing to yourself and accepting, you know, when there's an apology language, you know, I can apologize to myself through one of these apology languages. You can forgive yourself. You can be happy again. You can be free again. And you can feel love to flow through you and loving other people. So that apologizing to yourself is a very important concept, which would really merit taking some time on. So we get this inner turmoil going on inside ourselves, and we need to learn to apologize to ourselves. And there's a whole story in the book about he actually has the guy write out a big apology to himself and then read it to himself in front of a mirror. That was an extreme case, but use a mirror and write it out. I'm sorry to you, to yourself, so that you can forgive yourself. Apologizing to God. This was not in the book, but it's something that kept coming up over and over again in my mind. If your apology language is, what can I do to make it right? And you want to apologize to God. Well, how's that work? What do? Do you just, every single day, I have to do something for God, I have to do something for God. Because you're stuck. If you don't feel that God forgives you, you have to keep doing more. And do more, and do more, and do more. It's almost never-ending trap if you haven't felt God's forgiveness, because you didn't do enough. So some of these love languages in relationship with God are really insightful too. Because some people say, I'm sorry, God, and they feel forgiven, and they feel God's love, and everything's fine. That's great. You've probably seen people like that. But others have a different apology language. And they have to apologize to God in a different way, in their apology language, so they can feel forgiven by God. Does that make sense? Can you feel that? Anyway, for me, this was a chapter that he left out of the book, which would have been very helpful for a lot of people. So how do we feel that God forgives us after we make mistakes? And until we feel God forgives us, it's difficult to feel God's love for us as individuals, as who I really am. You can't really hide from God, but a lot of times we do kind of hide who we really are from God, and from other people too. Because what? We're afraid that they won't love us, maybe. We're afraid that we're not good enough, something like that. Does God apologize to us? Anybody ever heard God apologize to you? I have. One of the most amazing experiences in my life. I'll tell you about it sometime.
How about now?
Well, it's going too long, folks.
Yeah, it's okay. Go for it.
It's very personal, okay? So, okay, I'll tell you. We matched our first daughter, and after a few months, it broke. And one of the reasons that the young man gave for breaking it was me. That I was too domineering. I was too, whatever. I don't remember remember exactly what I did wrong, but I knew must have done something wrong because I was one of the main reasons why he broke the match. It didn't make any sense to me because obviously I was loving my daughter and I was loving him. I didn't know, but because he said that, he made me really, really, okay, here, my daughter's happiness, my daughter's future, my daughter's destiny, God had anointed this match and I blew it. That's how I felt. So, I didn't know the 5 apology languages at that time, but it probably wouldn't have helped anyway. But I was going, repenting like crazy, trying to think of everything I could say or do to fix it and to restore that relationship. And we were, at that time, we were going to Colorado for a workshop. And I was in the plane, and I was just still going through that, oh, woe is me, and God, and at one point, I stopped my rattling about repenting, and I heard this voice that said, I'm sorry, I never thought it would happen that way. It was a deeper voice. I'm sorry, I never thought it would happen that way. That was God. And my reaction was, you're God, you didn't know that? That was my first reaction. Wait a minute, you're God. You didn't know that? But then when I thought about it, I thought, like, that heart that came was so pure, so innocent, so childlike. It was like, God only thinks good. He can hardly even conceive of people not doing what's loving. It was a profound experience for me. God apologized to me. You have something wrong in your life? God is sorry. He didn't want that to happen. No way. God doesn't want bad things to happen to anybody. He's sorry. My love language is, I'm sorry. So that he spoke to me and said, I'm sorry. Changed my life because I realized God can't run this world the way he wants to. It's up to us. God is like a little child up there. In a way, I gotta fix this world. It's up to me. I grew up 10,000% in 1 second. We gotta take care of God. That's what I learned in that moment. Still wish it hadn't happened though. Anyway, where are we? In my experience, yes, God will apologize to you. I mentioned this before, I believe we're in the age of healing. One of the things that God has said is the 5 languages of apology. If there's any way I could encourage you to, I know this is maybe totally new concept, and I think it makes sense to you. This is church, tomorrow's work. It may not keep on going, but hang on to something from this sermon and make a step, a small step to learn this, or find somebody that you maybe could apologize to, and try this out. Because this will make a big difference, I believe, in your relationships. And that we need healing. Those of us in the Unification Church, been around a while, we took a lot of swings and arrows, believe me. You need to be congratulated if you're still here. It ain't easy. It hasn't been easy. But we also have some invisible barriers between ourselves and each other, brothers and sisters, all the time. So apologizing is helpful. Thank you very much. Let me offer prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, you at every instant in time are trying to send more and more of your love to us. And that we can't feel it is such a shame. That we didn't grow up in a world where people really knew how to love each other. All kinds of circumstances beat us down, Father. We're just starting out. We have a long road to go to build the kingdom of heaven, but it is definitely coming. There is no other way to go. It is in the bottom of every person's heart. So, guide each one of us today to seek a better relationship with you. Seek greater understanding of how we can create heavenly relationships. And we appreciate so much the time that we live in and our true parents. Our parents gave us that no one in history ever had before. They laid a foundation for so many people in this world to receive blessings that they don't even know came from true parents. We can only be grateful, Father, and humbled before you and all the love that is available. Bless each person, take care of them. Move their hearts today, Father. I pray your blessings on each person. In the name of Jen and Harold Stevens and all of our blessed central families here. Amen. Thank you.